Welcome to another episode of Pilots Say What, where we get to hear what pilots have to say. And today we're sitting down with Zane. We've spoken with Zane once before. It's been a little while, and your career's changed quite a bit since then too. But my name is Zachary, and I host this episode or this show, Pilots Say What, once a week. We have it on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. So feel free to tune in. If this is your first time, then welcome. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the episode. Zane, we've met you once before. Would you mind
Yeah.
introducing yourself one more time for us?
Yeah, so I'm Zane. I started the program in January of 24 from zero time. Made my way through and jumped into CFI and then jumped into an assistant chief role, and that's currently where I'm at now.
Awesome. Yes, and I think last time we talked, you were fresh into your CFI role,
Yeah,
and
sounds
now
about
you're
right.
doing some of your chief role stuff. So maybe I'll ask you a bit to help people understand what the difference would be. But
Okay.
you know, you started in when did you say 2024, right?
Yeah, January of 2024.
January of 2024. Can you kind of paint a picture of where you were at that point in time when you started flight training?
Yeah, so I was doing obviously some different industries. This is kind of career 2.0 for me,
Hmm.
and was kind of exposed to it. Did a bunch of research, like I explained to you guys in the past,
Hmm.
my past podcast. And so then after I got hooked into aviation,
Hmm.
I just started doing some research and into some other popular schools, obviously.
Hmm.
And then after taking the tour and Discovery Flight and everything with Rust, I was just hooked. So I had to figure out and make a lot of changes to make it happen. But got my wife and my two kids moved down here, and we just dove in head first.
Yeah. Well, changing careers, at a stage in your life, especially if you have a wife and kids, I'm not sure if you just had a kid before you changed careers.
She was a couple years old, but
Couple
yeah,
years, okay,
yeah.
okay, gotcha. Nonetheless, changing careers is something that I think a lot of people think
Oh
about,
yeah,
but maybe never do. So sometimes I get a little interested into that side of
yeah,
things.
because it's scary.
Yeah, it is a little scary. Can
Yeah.
can you tell me why maybe it was a little bit scary for you?
Yeah, I mean, because one, my wife has got to take, the burden of the load while I'm, doing full-time flight school.
That's tough.
But she could see how passionate I was about it whenever I was researching it and talking about it and looking into it and everything.
Right.
And so she just, took one for the team and was like, we'll do whatever we got to do.
Hmm.
I'll take an extra job, for a couple of years if I got to do that and to get you ultimately where you want to be and what you're
Wow.
passionate doing and stuff like that. And so she's doing her rock star things like she always does.
Hmm.
And We're chugging along still, trying to make it through.
Yeah.
But right now we're kind of just building time. But obviously the kids aspect of it is huge, right? Because
Yes.
especially, I don't know, I'm more kind of traditionally minded, and so I feel like I've got to provide for my family and everything.
Right.
And so that was kind of a tough pill to swallow, to have the idea of my two kids. I'm sacrificing the chance that maybe we're going to really struggle pretty bad, and they're going to, some of the things that we would like to do for them or get for them would have to
Mm,
be sacrificed for some time, right?
right.
And so they're still taking some sacrifices, but we're getting there.
Right. It's a
So
family ordeal at that
yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah.
I don't view myself as too traditionally minded, honestly, in contrary, but yet, I do feel that sense of responsibility to handle things like a lot of make. I feel like I have a responsibility to make sure that pretty much anything in my life is taken care of
Yeah,
at the end of the day,
yeah,
and that would include partners and family and friends even. I can only understand the pressure by
yeah,
some
exactly.
some degree. Well, you make the choice. Was it just passion? You said you mentioned that she saw the passion that you might have had when you were talking about it. Was there any other thing that kind of was pushing you to want to change careers other than just the passion?
I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't know if I think I talked about this on the last podcast, but I was exposed to aviation, just the possibility of aviation, through a sermon at church.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just, I don't know, God kind of pushing me towards a door that He wanted me to walk through. And
Hmm.
so I just started knocking on the door, and, eventually He opened it for me.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is the direction He wants me to go with life. And so, between just crazy passionate about it, and then
That's
I just feel
awesome.
called in this direction. It's just makes everything work, right?
Yeah, I can understand that feeling of what sometimes it's a little more difficult to well, I don't want to imply that maybe you even felt this way, but if you do, then great, I could ask you about it. But sometimes I feel like it's a little more difficult to make something sound very logical and practical. Uh, despite the fact that you kind of feel like you should do it anyways.
Hmm.
Did you at all feel that way? You feel like you were called in this direction, but was it? It probably wasn't as easy to justify it as it was to do it in a
Yeah.
way.
I mean, really in all aspects. I mean, logically as well, it made
Okay.
sense for me too, just the way I am and the things that I'm interested in, just kind of how my brain works.
Hmm.
Everything that speaks aviation is kind of how I am anyway.
Okay.
So but you just put all those pieces together and it's just like all makes sense, right?
Okay.
So
Gotcha. And maybe that's what the calling part feels like too. Okay.
yeah, some of that for sure
So
too.
I guess to ask a different question, was there an alternative choice? What if you didn't change careers? Where would you like? What would you have been doing now? Would you have been doing the same job that you were doing then, or
Probably.
yeah, something like that?
Yeah, probably. I'd probably still be doing the same thing. I was working in AV, audiovisual stuff,
Mhm.
working on all kinds of projects from like TVs and cameras and Wi-Fi networking systems and home
Right.
theaters, whether it be commercial things or residential. We got to do some really cool projects that would
Yeah.
blow some people away, and it's some nice stuff. But at the end of the day, I couldn't see. I liked what I was doing. I just couldn't see myself doing it forever, and it wasn't
Wow.
quite fulfilling and scratching the itch.
Right.
But yeah, overall, I mean, it was pretty cool. It just wasn't it.
Yeah, I found a lot of interest in some of those things, and so does one of my friends over here
Yeah.
that we work with. So maybe I'll ask you some questions.
Okay.
But I understand feeling like you wanted to kind of do something a little bit different, and so it was worth taking the risk to go from something that you were already doing to doing something that you have yet to really do. And
Exactly.
I think that's cool to hear about. Now here you are, right? You're a chief CFI here at Thrust. Could you explain a little bit to me about? The difference between maybe the last time we talked when you're fresh start in CFI
Yeah.
and where you're at now, and maybe how your mindset has changed a little bit.
Yeah. So I think quite a bit has changed actually, because I think when we last talked, I was still not only fresh into CFI, but just working for Thrust in that capacity in general. But
Right.
now not only been a CFI for a little while, but I've also been an assistant chief for a while. So I've learned a lot in
Yeah.
both of the roles since then. So just like general practices as far as CFIs go, and then just the experience of what it looks like to teach
Mm,
different students differently because they all learn differently,
right.
and to just basically meet their needs on a CFI level. But then obviously once you get onto the assistant chief level, we've got all kinds of admin things to do, and
Hmm.
doing audits for courses and making sure everything's done by regulations,
Right.
and it's never ending in that direction. So we've got a lot of stuff to take care of as far as that role goes.
That makes sense. I'm thinking about the whole picture here, starting in January of 2024, and then coming to close here to January of 2026. It's nearly a two-year path for you, uh, and I can't help but to think of how much you've had to take in and learn
Yeah,
and come to understand in the past 2 years, not just the ability to fly and then the allowance to fly with certificates and licenses, but even further to become a chief, to get into the admin and to think about the courses, you get to see a bigger picture.
oh yeah.
Um, I guess I'm a little bit curious about that, even if you could talk a little bit more about what it's like to see the bigger picture within flight training, at least. And if do you feel like you have a better vision of how aviation as an industry works?
To some degree, I think I could see a little bit of that already from
Mhm.
the CFI level, but I don't know if that's just particular to me or not.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, yeah, you definitely get a bigger scope of things, having more of an bird's eye view, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, you have, I don't know, different things that you can kind of look at on a day to day, but at the same time, you're looking at the school as a whole too.
Right.
So you're kind of seeing progress in different metrics that we kind of look at as well.
Mhm.
But you can see the different students that stand out on different levels. Um, the ones that show up on time,
Mm.
or are getting their writtens done early, or just doing the things that we ask them to do to be a
Mhm.
good student, right? And not only is that setting them up for being a good student, but that's setting them up for like day one. You're
Right.
interviewing from day one, so we see you from day one. So do part of the interviewing process as well. So
Mhm.
those that start figuring that out and knowing that, they kind of start trying to act a little bit different and
Mhm.
do things better. But that paints, as far as painting the bigger picture, that
Yeah.
means a lot in as far as where they're going down the road.
Right.
And so I try to navigate some students into thinking through that mindset, and to get out of necessarily just the student mindset, because it plays into a much bigger picture of their careers, their journey. So it's going to impact whether they get a job here. How do they do their day to day with us,
Hmm.
stuff like that. So
I'm sure. I imagine it's easy to assume that your only responsibility is to get some good grades and pass some tests as a
yeah,
student, um, which is fair, on paper, sure. But there's going to be a lot more asked of you, and it's better to kind of go ahead and face that early on, I would imagine.
yeah.
Um, you mentioned a few things in there. Are There's a few directions I want to go here. So I'll start with this. Is there anything that you've seen that we've been able to implement in the structure of what we're doing here at Thrust Flight that has kind of helped the students grasp that mindset and really kind of push themselves and help them, become a better student and pilot? I guess what I'm trying to say is I can see organizations who have a passion for flying, but the bigger an organization grows, the more business that occurs within that organization,
Hmm.
there's still you got to keep alive that thing. And I'm wondering what is helping us do that, and what is helping the students kind of become a better pilot, not just a better student.
So I would say maybe two things. One is our community aspect. Obviously, we're growing. So with growth, some of the growing pains typically that that community tends to kind of diminish over time
Right.
with growth. But I think we've done a pretty good job of holding that together and intact. Um, every once in a while, I'll do a tour, and that seems to be it stands out to people that do tour with us
Hmm.
that they can see that it's a little bit different here. They can see crowds of students kind of sitting around at different tables and studying together.
Right.
We've got multiple places that you can do that at, and we pretty
Hmm.
well stick to creating that community and trying to keep it as best we can.
Right.
So one, that's a big aspect that I think makes a difference. But two, we've got a new LMS that has been going for a few months now. Our
Hmm.
private and instrument courses are completely rolled out, and those are going. Commercial is, I think we've got stage one rolled out, and that'll be completely done here soon.
Right.
But that's so it's on the videos side for the flights and also ground presentations and quizzes and everything to really kind of get students prepared to another level.
Hmm.
And then once we get all that rolled out, we'll be kind of combing back through and then constantly trying to improve it.
Right.
So it's all one big work in progress, but ultimately we're just trying to put out a high level product for our students that come here,
Hmm.
so that they can have every resource that they need to
Hmm.
just really make them as successful as we can. So
Right.
yeah,
And we haven't. I don't even know if we've mentioned the LMS yet on the podcast. And for anyone who's listening, a learning management
yeah,
system,
yeah, yeah.
and it's basically like modules that you get to go through and see what's going on all throughout a lesson that you may be approaching here pretty soon. It's kind of like a first touch point, right, to some of the basic knowledge and
Exactly.
experience. Yeah, and that maybe that doesn't make it sound as exciting, but that's as straightforward as I could say it. Now, having had said it that way, uh, have you seen anyone's reactions on how they feel about the LMS students wise?
Yeah, so some of them, I mean, obviously early on, there's some confusion about like what's expected within that and things like that. But we've got it lined up like lesson to lesson as far as our syllabus to how the LMS is structured.
Right.
So it's pretty easy to follow as far as what lesson you're on.
Hmm.
But typically speaking, as far as the flight videos go, we like for them to go watch the video before they go do that flight lesson.
Mm.
Uh, and then so that they have a bit of a, I guess, an appetizer
Hmm.
or kind of a step ahead on what they're going to get into,
Right.
so that by the time they go get in the plane and are doing whatever steep turns, I don't know, for the first time,
Hmm.
they have seen it in a video and have been kind of talked through it
Yeah.
instructionally and everything
Yeah.
in a
I'm
video. And
sorry.
so they can kind of chair fly, so to speak, even though they haven't done it themselves in the plane. They saw how it was done, and they kind of know some tips and tricks from the videos as to
Right.
what to expect. So they have a little
Yeah.
bit of an idea already before they even go put their hands on it and do it the first time. So
Right. And I know that so it's in its first iteration, right? It's I'm sure like you said we're going to go back, comb through
hmm
it and make certain improvements. I already see some of the improvements we're working on making now. It's already about to go through some of its second iterations, but uh I guess just to make it a little bit more is we rolled it out to some students before already, right?
hmm
Um and so how have they reacted to some of that?
it seems mostly good.
Yeah.
Those that we can definitely tell early on that those are that are highly engaged with it, they tend to be much more successful
Mm,
and getting through those courses faster.
mm,
So there are little bugs here and there that we're still working out.
Yeah.
But you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's being improved
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, those that interact with it a lot are typically more successful in getting through the program faster.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'm just curious to see how it all unfolds. We've been part of our team has worked obviously on it
Yeah,
with you, mostly Lee,
yeah.
but we've touched base on some of those things. So that's cool to hear about. That's something we're working on here at Thrustlight. Is so back to what we were talking about though. Ultimately, seeing an organization grow, the LMS, and you mentioned what was the first thing you talked about there that kind of helped us keep. Oh, it's the community
Hmm.
really stands out, right? Um, and it's difficult because we can't really take too much credit for the community itself
Yeah,
because it's not like we sit there and say everyone has to be here and they hang your studying
yeah,
together.
exactly.
You have to form a study group. Are you in a study group?
Yeah.
We're not doing that. They're doing that on their own. Now maybe we're putting a lot of pressure on them, and that's why they adapt in that way.
Hmm.
So maybe that's what we're doing. But
I
uh,
think some of that is like the older guys that have been around, and even like now that I've been around for a little while, I suggest it heavily. I think that we do a good job of, as you've gone through the program and you saw what benefits helped
mm,
you, and one of those being, gathering with the community, those that are going through the same course that you are, urging them to, hey, get with those classmates that you started the same ground class with and study regularly together.
right,
Immerse yourself in aviation, you'll be more successful.
right,
And just different little things like I suggest to some of my students that are having issues memorizing flows and things for emergencies and checklists and things like that. Like an example would be that I told them back whenever I started our big old class. I suggested that a few of us classmates we just go through and point at one another
yeah,
randomly throughout the day and just say engine fire go. And
yeah,
so then you are responsible for reciting off the flow, the troubleshooting flow, or
yeah,
what you're going to do as soon as that happens, and then pulling out your checklist and doing what you're going to do or whatever.
hmm,
And that just really kind of holds both of you accountable, all of your people in your class accountable, and
right,
just brings that community together because you never know when you're walking down the hall or walking around outside and your buddy's going to point at you and say electrical fire or something
yeah,
like that, and you got to be ready, right?
yeah,
So I think that's something that's big that we could kind of do more and more of. But I think that it's because those that have been through it and
yeah.
lived it, they keep telling it keeps rolling downhill, and we keep suggesting,
Okay.
hey, let's do this. It's good for you.
Mm.
It worked really well for me, and so they see the benefit from it, and so they keep trying to do it too, and it just keeps going. So
I think a lot of that seems like it could come from the fact that the majority, if not, I mean, nearly all of our CFIs were once students in our program.
yeah,
And I think that if you looked at it negatively, you could say, well, isn't there a little bit like of a, like, don't you want outside opinion and thought? And like, yeah, sure. But when it comes to aviation, I mean, the standards are clear.
yeah,
I think there's a lot more room and a lot more to gain from actually having you guys once having had been part of the program now be the instructors because you can carry that culture and let it come top down
yeah,
because you were a part of it. And I think the students can trust you a bit more and you know what it takes to succeed. And like you said, when you were a student, like, hey, what's the
yeah,
engine failure?
exactly.
Um, on the backside of that, you could hear that story and think, man, that's crazy. Why would you go to those extents to study or to like hold each other accountable? Like, what's the drive there? And I guess I would ask you that. What kind of motivated you to become a better student or a better studier?
You gotta want it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, anything that I've ever done, I really, went at it full speed. And so, I mean, if you're actually passionate about it and you really want to do this,
Hmm.
like how bad do you want it? How much are you going to work for it?
Hmm.
So show me what you got.
Yeah. What
Get
about when
after it.
someone
Dive all
comes
the way
into a
in.
program like this and then they realize that wow, I didn't realize how hard this was going to be. Do they have a choice, I guess, in a moment like that where they have to decide how much they want it, right?
Hmm.
Uh, for thrust flight, how would you describe the level of difficulty, I guess, for entering a program like thrust flight, any accelerated program?
Uh, I mean, I think for me personally, I was kind of expecting it to be tough.
Hmm.
And so whenever I was hit with how much I had to learn, it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
But for a lot of people, it is that way.
Hmm.
Uh, but I mean, if you're just like honest with yourself about life, like life is going to smack you in the face sometimes, right?
Right.
But if you're in the direction of doing something that you want to do, you're going to buckle down and you're going to figure it out, right?
Right.
So it shouldn't be deterring you from getting done what you got to get done. It's just a little bit harder than what you thought it was. So
Right.
that just means you need to buckle down that much harder. So
Yeah, and one thing I'm imagining that is I think a lot of people are scared of, but what I think is probably one of the best things is the fact that when you sign up for Thrust or an accelerated program, you're sort of saying this is going to be my number one focus
mhm.
in most areas of my life. This is my main responsibility, not just like my first priority, but my main responsibility. And I think kind of allocating your life to one thing, um, it makes the idea of what you're saying a lot more. I don't know, more. It seems more realistic to sit there and say, whatever happens, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's harder to do that when it's not your first priority or your main
Yeah,
responsibility.
exactly. You
So,
say that because it's funny you say that because we do have some students here and there that that they'll come in here and this should be their full time, right?
right.
But because they're a full time student, they kind of have some fun and don't treat this so much as their first priority. And you can
Mm,
see it in their success through the program.
mm,
They take way longer to get through the program. So
hmm
whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So
right.
embrace the grind, get in there, get it
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Flight training on its own is already, I'm sure, demanding regardless if
Oh
you're in a
yeah,
program like ours. So,
exactly.
uh, I guess that just comes with either a little bit of foresight or a little bit of experience,
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of the
for
two.
sure.
Okay, so let's zoom back out a little bit. I want to kind of get an idea from you of what someone could expect flight training to look like in terms of just like step one, two, three. You know, maybe there's someone out here who's just thinks flying sounds cool. They're as interested as maybe you were before you started doing a little research. Maybe this video is a part of their research. Uh, what could someone expect if they're thinking about starting flight training and they're just watching a YouTube video at home right now? What should they do, and what would they expect the flight training to look like?
So if you're wanting to go to a 141 program,
Hmm
it's going to be more accelerated typically. If you want it to be more laid back, then you're going to be more in the 61 direction typically. And then basically you want to make sure that you would even qualify. So you need to go see if you can get a first class medical
Yeah.
because you're going to need to do that, especially if you're wanting to go in the direction of airlines and part 121 flying and everything.
Right.
And then once you've got those couple of things done, you just need to start studying. Come get a tour.
Yeah.
Go do a discovery flight. Make sure it's what you actually want to do with your life, and that you can see yourself being training in that small of an aircraft because that's what everybody's got to do to start out.
Exactly. And
Uh,
Google flight school near me, you'll find something.
exactly,
So
and then go do a tour and see what we're all about.
yeah.
Ask some questions while you're there.
Exactly. And then let's say someone does all those things and they say, you know what, I'm gonna sign this piece of paper and I'm gonna mark this day on the calendar. I'm starting flight training.
Mhm.
What is maybe let's say we go the part 141 route. What is something they should be expecting, like the overall picture of like, hey, I have to hit this milestone, and this milestone, and then I'm done flight training. Could you kind of give an idea of what that might look like?
It depends on how far you want to take it, but if you want to go with us, typically most people are going all the way through double I and or multi.
Hmm
But usually you're looking somewhere in the realm of, I don't know. I took 9 months to get through my program,
hmm
but that's a little bit more on the fast side. That's not the fastest we've done.
Right.
We've done faster. Uh, but again, what you put into it is what you get out of it. But then some people could be more into a year and a half area.
hmm
But the courses are going to be range a little bit. It's not completely cookie cutter because everybody's a little different. But
Right.
typically, the private is going to take anywhere from like 2 to 3 months.
hmm
Instrument will take 1 to 2 months.
hmm
Same on commercial, 1 to 2 months. And then a little bit less time typically on CFI and CFII.
Right.
CFI's probably about a month, month and a half,
Yeah.
and then double I is pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's a pretty quick turnaround in like a couple weeks,
Right.
depending on check ride weight and stuff like that. And then our multi, being that we have examining authority for that as well, that's a really quick turnaround. So usually you're starting and finishing your EOC in like a
Yeah.
week and a half, 2 weeks tops.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fast. But yeah,
Yeah, and then at this point, you've done research, you've made a decision, you've done some flight training, you've gotten lots of ratings. What do people? And we keep going down the rabbit hole of 141. If we could stick on that same track of someone who may be aiming for people who go to Part 141 schools typically are career focused
hmm
and want to find some sort of career in aviation.
yeah.
That being said, if we assume that, what kind of happens after someone gets their multi and a program like this?
So it depends on aviation is a lot about who you know.
Right.
Uh, there's a lot of obviously what you know, but it's a lot more about who you know. So from day one, that's why I always talk about you're interviewing day one, whether you think you're interviewing for thrust or you're interviewing for somebody you just met that after you get your hours, now you've got a relationship that's going to land you a job down the road.
Hmm.
So everybody you meet, shake hands, uh, be a good person, things like that, because aviation's a smaller community than you think, and so those relationships could mean something to you down the road.
Right.
But yeah, ultimately, it looks something like, for most people, if you want to go to the airlines 121, that you're going to build to 1,500 hours in some way, shape, or form, whether that be CFI or a number of other ways. You're going to go in that direction. If you're wanting to go
And
like
to be clear,
135,
that's 1,500 hours in a plane flying that will count towards that goal. And the reason we do that, right, is because 121 requires what we call an ATP, which is
exactly.
a license that allows you to fly a plane that holds a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then you've got a couple other options that are Part 135 and Part 91, which are more your charter and or corporate operations,
Hmm.
and they fall under a little bit different set of regulations. But you could get into one of those jobs with less hours. Just depends on a number of different things.
Right. It does
But
take typically a bit more connection and finagling to
exactly,
figure out the industry and things like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why those relationships and that networking is so important. So uh, join the groups, go to the conferences, do all the things,
Right.
get involved in the aviation community, because you never know whose hand you're about to shake. They
Right.
could end up landing you a job and helping you be successful on your journey. So
And doing a lot of those things where you go to conferences, shake hands, and meet people and have conversations. A lot of times it is about making connections, but it's also more about you growing your understanding on how things work.
exactly, yeah,
Uh, because because those connections come full circle, but you kind of have to assume that there's more for you to understand than just how to fly a plane. And if you assume that, then you know it's beneficial to talk to people.
yeah, exactly,
You can Google something all day, but you can have one conversation for 30 minutes and probably learn more from an individual than maybe Googling something for 3 hours.
yeah,
There's a lot of technical stuff to understand. But there's a lot of human factors to
yeah.
understand too.
Even
So
like down to if you some people think that there's no point in going to some other job fairs or conferences and stuff
right.
if you don't even have all your training done,
Hmm.
and so they're thinking like, I gotta as soon as I get all that stuff done, then once I'm ready to start looking for a job, I'll go start going into those things. Like what you're saying,
Hmm.
you could be learning this stuff further ahead than even that,
Yeah.
so you can be ahead of the curve and already be learning and knowing some of that stuff, so when you
Right.
get to that point, you've already got a leg up, maybe even met a couple people
Yeah.
that you can reach out to those contacts and see
Yeah.
if they've got anything available or they know of anything. And
Yeah. And the feeling of being ahead of the curve in that scenario too can directly impact you in that moment in your training and the way you approach your training. I mean, if you're struggling, if you're feeling discouraged, if you're feeling like you don't really understand what you're doing, where this is all going,
yeah,
you're plateauing, you maybe don't have the motivation. I mean, there's a lot of things that you could struggle with in flight training. Um, those sorts of conversations, getting ahead of the curve, understanding the bigger picture,
yeah,
could really remedy a lot of that, in my opinion. At least
yeah,
that's
for
how I
sure.
tend to do things. If I'm like struggling with motivation, I'm like, there's something that's not clicking for me. I go in and try to get a bigger picture
Yeah,
idea. Um,
yeah, we actually
yeah.
teach some of that in like CFI whenever you have students that are struggling and unmotivated because they are struggling,
Hmm.
and we kind of talk to them about some of that. It's like, hey, what's the bigger picture for you? Kind of get them reeled back in, and
Yeah.
it's like, hey, what are your goals?
Yeah.
To try to find different ways to motivate them and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
get them refocused on what the big picture is. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And if, at the risk of talking too much, I want to recap real quick of some of the things you just said because I think you broke that down probably as efficiently as I have with anyone. So you know, Google Flight School near me. You heard him talk about the medical. You can Google that, or find someone to talk to about these things. But I'm saying Google, assuming you don't have any resources. The third thing you mentioned was um, the finding a flight school,
mhm.
also, right? And one of the biggest factors in finding a flight school is considering Part 61 versus Part 141. So you can look into what that means, and then get started, right? Financing is going to be a big thing. Flight training
Oh
is
yeah,
expensive no matter how you put it. We didn't really talk about that, but that's kind of its own topic. Everyone has their own way of going about it, but most people go into it with some sort of financing through a loan or something like that. So, but in the grand scheme of things, if you have a goal of making a career, I think that actually shrinks that factor a little bit.
Yeah, to some degree, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you're passionate about it
Yeah,
and
if
you
you're
really want to do
passionate
it.
about it and you're looking to
Yeah.
have a career, in the grand scheme of things, that should be getting taken care of. That should pay for itself. If you're doing it for fun, then well, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
That being said, you start flight training. You have to anticipate at least six different certificates: your private, your instrument, your commercial, your CFI, CFII, and multi. And then at that point, you're going to be aiming towards at least one more certificate if you're looking to get to the airlines, called the ATP. Otherwise, you're looking for an alternative, a route that might include something like a charter or a corporate, which is not 121, but rather 135, right?
Yeah, 191,
So
yeah.
these are, I'm saying these now just so you guys can hear the words that you might need to look up if you don't even know what to look up, and to put it into one compact, stretched out
Yeah, that's
thing.
good.
Yeah, so I want people to have that when they walk away with this, from this, talking that we're having now. Okay, so you're a CFI who's a chief now,
Mhm.
and you've kind of gotten a bigger picture, viewpoint, a bird's eye view, if you will. Um, w- I guess I want to know, has your viewpoint on aviation changed in terms of what it means to you, much more than you came in with the passion of wanting to fly, it was a calling for you. Has that changed at all? I mean, do you feel the same way? You get into the nitty gritty, it could kind of ruin your image of it. And how's that happened to you?
It definitely is a different perspective.
Yeah,
It's a bit of a grind,
yeah,
a little bit more so because you got more responsibilities, obviously.
right,
But it doesn't change the passion.
yeah,
I still am getting. I'm probably like once every week or two, I'll find myself randomly flying with a student that, because I don't typically have primary students anymore. I'll be flying with others or doing a stage check or whatever, and
right,
I'll just be finding myself looking out the window and just telling them it's like we get to fly planes.
yeah.
It just like hits, it just refreshes in your mind, and it's just like passion's still there. It's awesome, love it.
Do you feel as if, and because you mentioned that moment when you say the passion's still there, and then you mention a moment like that, when you were doing, AV work or any sort of previous work, maybe even now outside of that, I mean, did you get to have as many moments like that?
Not nearly as many, but I mean, you finish a cool project that somebody spent a lot of money on and you put a lot of work into
Hmm.
for that person. It does feel cool to have a final product to present the customer and stuff like that. But it's not, it doesn't hit quite the same as flying a plane.
I guess the reason I asked that is, it almost seems like that's a good measurement of like whether or not you're doing something you like, or maybe even living a life that you don't mind living.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Yeah, and I think about that a lot, that kind of thing. I'm like, oh, those really make the week worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when you were flying, before being a chief, how often did you fly?
A little more often than I do now.
Right.
Um, I mean, I was probably averaging like 70-ish hours
Hmm.
before I jumped into A Chief. And it's a little bit lower than that now. I think I'm probably in the 50 to 60 now.
Right.
But you've got admin responsibilities and different things that you've got to take care of.
You
So,
say
yeah,
you're still doing about 50 to 60 hours per how much time?
per month.
Per month. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I thought I kind of missed it. I thought you said a week, and I was like, that's still a
Oh, if I
lot.
did,
That's
that's not what I meant. No, per
yeah, yeah.
month.
No, yeah. I don't know if you did say it, but I was on a weak thought process. Anyhow, no, that's a lot of flying. That's nice. I asked that, I guess, because um, more opportunities to get that moment still, but also I think people would want to know how often you're flying. A lot of people just want to know how much they're going to fly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we've covered a lot of great things here, but I guess just to make sure that we don't leave too many stones unturned, I guess,
Hmm.
is there anything else you would think that would be important for someone to know who's considering flight training? We've touched on a lot already, though. So.
Yeah. I mean, biggest thing is, do you actually really want to be flying? Like, are you actually passionate about it? A lot of people see that how much the pay has gone up for pilots in the last few years, and they're like, oh, yeah, I want to have a mobile office and get paid a crap ton of money.
Hmm.
Just like, if you don't, anything you don't really love and are not actually passionate about, eventually it's going to catch up to you and it's just going to be another grind that you probably don't really want to be doing. So, I mean, make sure it's something that you actually love,
Hmm.
and that'll make those tough times in training that much easier to overcome.
Right.
That you're not just chasing a paycheck or whatever, but that you actually love flying. You'll figure out a way to get through it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, it's easy to think that. Would you say that? Do you imagine that flight training is more likely to pay off than maybe college? And I say more likely, not that college isn't gonna pay off. I just think the end result is like you're definitely set up for a high paying career
Hmm.
if you finish flight training. So I guess I kind of answered, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would agree. I only went to a year of college,
Hmm.
and that was forever ago because I'm 33 now. But I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was like, I'm not gonna blow all my money if I don't know which way I want to go with it.
Right.
And so then I ended up never going back. And so then obviously I came here, and ultimately, if you kind of do the math, do the numbers, it'll probably work out better for you faster anyway.
Mhm.
Uh, so
Yeah.
all things considered, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's a good idea if you're actually passionate about it and love it. So.
Okay, gotcha. I guess I just asked that because um, anything college is a grind
Hmm.
too.
Yeah.
And depending on what kind of program you go through,
Yeah.
it's can be worth a lot of years of grinding.
Yeah.
Um, and but it's the payoff isn't guaranteed
Yeah.
as is nothing is guaranteed even if you go through flight training.
I
It's
will
just
say with a degree though, and getting through all your certifications and everything, when the market is tight and there's less
mm,
hiring going on,
okay.
you are going to be much more competitive than those that don't have a degree. So they'll
Hmm.
tighten up their preferences on who they're looking for to hire, and those with a degree, it
Right.
means more.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see too.
And I
So
have seen maybe some of the younger people or some of the people who've come in with degrees. Um, I've been able to see that they have worked out a lot of the soft skills and maybe study habits and time management things. They've worked out a lot of that out in order to succeed at getting a degree in the first place,
yeah.
and that benefits them in pilot training. Again, I've seen a lot of young people who come in and well, they're just gonna grind it out anyway.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I guess I'm only bringing this up because if you're comparing the two, yeah, money, career can be really attractive
Hmm.
in pilot training, but it also seems like it's more of a grind than college, maybe. What would you think
Yeah, I
about that?
think if the ones that have been through college and then come to training in aviation, they definitely have better study habits.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you're coming straight out of high school getting into it, then be ready.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not just hopping in a plane and going and flying. You got to do a lot of ground study. There's a lot more that goes
Hmm.
on the ground in studying everything than most people think.
Right.
So you got to know a little bit about a lot, or I take that back. You got to know a lot about a lot
Yeah,
in different
exactly.
subject areas. So we
Yeah.
don't just learn about how a plane flies. We learn about weather. You learn about the systems of the aircraft. We've got mechanics that do the work, but you
Hmm.
still have to know how the system works. So
Right.
there's a lot that goes into it. So
It seems like maybe you said you did quite a bit of research beforehand. Did you understand that scope of work beforehand before starting flight training?
not to the depth that it is.
Not
So
that you could ever, but
yeah, exactly
yeah,
right. You don't know till you know.
yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a lot more that goes into it than you think. So
Right. And I'm curious about when you kind of stumble upon, oh, I've got to learn X, Y, and Z. Were you? I mean, that didn't. How close did that even get to deterring you at all from flight training?
no, not at all. I mean, I was in it 100% anyway. So
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, newfound information. I just got to learn more.
Okay, gotcha. I guess I say that if someone's listening right now, and maybe you started flight training and you want to pick it back up, or you're still on the fence, like I always mention, uh, if you still feel a little excited about learning weather and how a plane flies and also what the rules are from the Federal Aviation Association, if none of that stuff really deters you and you're like, well, I'll learn it. Well, then, I mean, you've kind of maybe that bug is biting you a little bit. And I say that because those are the things that make it kind of difficult. It's a lot to learn about a lot.
Yeah.
And so maybe, do a little research, but maybe go get that discovery flight and check it out because that excitement carries you a long way,
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like. So, hey, we've talked a lot about a lot
A lot about a
already,
lot.
and so I feel like I could ask you questions all day. I guess I'll ask you this one more. Is there something you're excited about in your future on your journey of flight training or even building hours or career wise that maybe you could share with us just to know a little more about you?
Yeah, I mean, just overall, I'm passionate about flying, so it's nice to run into and get to teach other people that are also passionate,
Hmm.
especially if they're like struggling with a certain area or whatever. If I can get them to an aha moment, whether it's maybe on landings or something, that's really nice to see and be able to kind of make a difference and help them to do something that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
But as far as me, just like long term, just something bigger and faster.
Yeah, bigger and faster. A
Yeah,
little, yeah, you got to level it up a little bit.
yeah.
It doesn't sound like
We'll
you're in
get
too
there.
much of a rush to get
No,
there.
we'll be all
Yeah,
right.
sounds good. Okay, well, thank you for
Yeah, of
not
course.
only being on the podcast episode today, but for being one of our chiefs. I know you guys have a lot of responsibilities, and it's nice to hear your mindset being what it is, and you also being one of our chiefs
Yeah.
who makes, I think, I can only imagine you can't help but to make an impact on our student body and how things work. So again, thank you for joining us today. This was another episode of Pilots Say What, where we get to hear what pilots have to say. Today we got to talk to Zane for at least the second time on this show. Go check out that first episode if you haven't yet. And my name is Zach. We'll be doing this weekly as we have been doing for about 90 episodes ish now. We're getting close to that 100 episode mark. If you're still listening, you got to hit the subscribe button for us because that means you enjoyed it enough to get to the end. Otherwise, hit that like button and leave a comment because we do start conversations in the section below. And I think a lot of cool stuff happens down there. And if you're interested in thrust, of course, give us a call or visit thrustflight.com or at least visit a flight school near you. And I hope you guys get started on your aviation journey sometime soon. And if you are in it already, good luck. See you guys next time.
See ya.